Hello everybody, it's Mr. Long Rusty here with yet another video. Today we are going to take a look at the Vanguard playlist in Destiny 2 and discover what works, what doesn't work, and what could be improved. This is mainly going to be a loose and free video, so let's get started. First up, we've got Battlegrounds, which is the new season of the Chosen activity. Now, Battlegrounds work like this. You start the encounter, you get 2 or 3 ordinary tasks. Either throw a ball at a shield, throw a ball at an enemy, and kill a lot of enemies before you take on a boss. Kill him and get your loot. There is a couple of modifiers that change each week with this playlist that you should be aware of. Barrier, Unstoppable, and Overload. These enemies need a specific type of mod which you unlock from your artifact. Whenever there's a new season in Destiny 2, you get a new activity to keep things fresh. Battlegrounds at first was fun, mostly because it was new. There are a lot of enemies spawning and the action is frenetic. It keeps you on your toes and at times can be challenging. I think it is a great place to masterwork your exotics because of the myriad of enemies in the playlist. So the good. It's fresh and new, got some great action and somewhat challenging. Let's move on to the bad. Now after the honeymoon phase is over, you quickly realize that Battlegrounds, while fun at the beginning, has just become a grindfest. This mainly has to do with the longevity of the encounters, and they start to drag on. They are just too long and repetitive. Now my brother pointed this out to me yesterday. He is a casual Destiny 2 player, and even he stated that the encounters were too long. Now how to improve this? I think it's player progression and balance, which is 2 of Bungie's biggest struggles. Now let me emphasize this. I'm not a game developer and I haven't got a solution for Battlegrounds. But they need to find a way to make this activity hard at the beginning and easier when the player gains more power. This will almost always give the player a sense of mastery and release those sweet endorphins. Balance is the key here, I think. If you make the encounters too hard, a lot of your player base will find little incentive to keep on playing. In this case, you need to have some great loot in the activity for it to be worth it. Now, if you make it too easy, players will become bored and the playlist will quickly stagnate. The thing is, you are dealing with a large player base and everyone and their mother has their preferences. Therefore, it's complicated to come to a unified solution. But make it harder first, easier when you get better gear. Now moving on to Vanguard strikes. Right now, there are currently 14 strikes in the game, which is a pretty good number, although you could make an argument for the quality of the strikes themselves. From the abysmal Lake of Shadows and Exodus Crash to the excellent Warden of Nothing and the revamped Devil's Lair. For those of you who don't know the strikes, they have a couple of modifiers and they change each week at the reset. Having said that, this is probably the most casual playlist currently in the game. Players don't have to worry too much about their loadouts and you can talk about other things that's going on in your life. Now if you have friends that play the game or a clan, that is. This is probably the greatest compliment that I can give the strikes. It's casual and friendly and nothing demanding. Now there are 2 strikes that I particularly enjoy. The Warden of Nothing and the Devil's Lair. The Warden of Nothing is a strike with a lot of personality. The music, the area and the constant talking Warden Servitor that has inhabited Varix's personality is a cool twist on the Prison of Elders activity for early Destiny players. It also has several encounters which involves avoiding fast trains and defeating some minibosses, which on paper doesn't sound too exciting, but it contributes to the overall experience. Now the Devil's Lair was one of the most boring strikes in the original, and it is now a lot more exciting. The key to this has been the influx of enemies in the strike. Now one common criticism that has been floating around the Destiny community over the past years have been the absence of enemies in the strikes, and the Devil's Lair has perfected that. Now there isn't anything inherently bad about the strikes in their current state, but as I mentioned earlier, the quality of them varies a lot. The Lake of Shadows and Exodus Crash doesn't have anything exciting about them. The Lake of Shadows is just a basic run-through, kill a lot of Taken and defeat the underwhelming boss. It dies very quickly if you combine the right weapons with the right burn or singe, as it's called in Destiny 2. Boring, no encounters, a snooze fest in general. Exodus Crash has some variation in that it has some encounters at least, where you need to run over some glowing blue markers and let Ghost hack while you stand in a circle and kill enemies. However, these encounters are so frightfully boring that you just want to get to the boss and be done with it. But the strike doesn't end there. We have to fight a poorly designed boss in several stages where it turns invisible and becomes immune to your damage. Also, a squadron of Arcshanks halt your progress as this drags on and you can't defeat the boss by your power and gear alone. Now what can be improved? The quality of the strikes, as I said before, make the encounters more exciting and avoid a certain longevity of them. The corrupted strike is way too long. In that strike a lot of players just quit before completing it because of its length. Now don't get me wrong, I like the corrupted, especially since it was unlocked after the Last Wish raid was completed, which strengthens the bond with the community members and you feel like you're part of something cool. But now, in that strike, I'm just going through the motions. I seem to remember that some strikes in Destiny 1 had enemy rotation each week. Now that could be interesting to sort of breathe some new life into some strikes. Now the Nightfall is in a very good state in my opinion. You have 4 different difficulty tiers: Adept, Hero, Legend and Master. In Adept, which is the easiest, you have matchmaking and just the one modifier active. In this tier you'll maybe get lucky and get an exotic drop, but most likely just the enhancement cores, and even they are an uncommon drop. Moving on to Hero, it's still matchmaking, but now they contain champions, which must be killed or stopped by using a specific type of mod, either Unstoppable, Barrier or Overload. Exotic gears drops more frequently, as does enhancement cores and 2 new ones, enhancement prisms and a Nightfall weapon which is on a weekly rotation. You also need to kill the champions to get the Platinum reward, which gives you the highest chance of rewards. Now the last 2 is Legend and Master difficulty. These ones does not contain matchmaking, so you need to gather 2 friends at a higher power level to complete. Your equipment is also locked for these tiers, along with a whole lot of difficulty modifiers, and you also have champions to worry about, so choose your loadout carefully. However, your chances of getting great loot is also heightened in these last 2. Given the chance of getting exotic gear, enhancement prisms, and even the elusive Ascendant shards if you complete Master difficulty. Now my only criticism of the Nightfall is Bungie's insistence of not applying matchmaking for Legend and Master. Consider the solo Destiny player who has just reached the threshold for pinnacle gear. And without 2 more players, they don't stand a chance of getting that 100,000k score needed for the pinnacle gear. This is a constant issue in my opinion for the game. Just think if they apply matchmaking. More people will continue to play the game and not drop off when they reach that threshold. Now I know that Lost Sectors is an alternative to this for the solo players, but it's still an issue. This will also breed new friendships and making contact with the player base, and I think that's a positive. On the other hand, you could end up with players that don't necessarily have the skill required, or maybe are behaving like some douchebags. It's pretty easy to find some players on LFG, but I think that matchmaking should be implemented anyway. Well, that's my general thoughts on the Vanguard playlist in Destiny 2. My name is Mr. Long Rusty. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found this interesting.